Instructional video on how to find missing angle measures. When you have a missing angle, we want to find the vertical angles first. Make sure you have your vocabulary terms out so that way you can reference that. Vertical angles are congruent, meaning they are equal, they're the same. So we know that those two angles will be the same. Next, subtract from 180. To find the supplementary angles. And then follow the pattern. That last step may not make sense just yet, but we will do several examples. Not all problems will be very simple. Occasionally, you will have problems involving angles, but also involving equations. If you have an equation where the angles are congruent, that would mean vertical angles, corresponding angles, alternate interior or alternate exterior angles. We are going to set the equations equal to each other. Then solve. If they are supplementary angles, meaning they're side by side on a straight line, we're going to set them equal to 180. 180 degrees. And then solve. Line R is parallel to line S. The measure of angle 2 is 55 degrees. So we can go ahead and fill in 2 as 55 degrees. Now 3 and 2 are our vertical angles. They're diagonally across. That's what we find first, meaning they're congruent. 2 and 3 are both 55 degrees. To find angles 1 and 4, they are supplementary angles because they're right next to 1 and 2, and 3 and 4 are side by side. They are supplementary angles. So to find our supplementary angles, we subtract 180 minus 55, and we get 125. So that means angle 1 is 125 degrees, and angle 4 are 125 degrees. 1 and 4 are also vertical angles because they are diagonally across from each other. On the bottom, 3 and 6 are alternate interior angles because 3 is on the top left, 6 is on the bottom right. They're on the inside edges. Alternate interior angles are congruent, meaning they're the same. So 3 and 6 are 55 degrees. 4 and 5 are alternate interior angles. They are congruent, so 125 degrees. I could say 6 and 7 are vertical angles, so they're the same at 55 degrees. 5 and 8 are vertical angles, and so they are congruent at 125 degrees. You should notice the pattern from each section. Here at the top, 125 and 55, 55 and 125. It's the same pattern here on the bottom. 125, 55, 55, 125. Match your corresponding angles, your vertical angles, your alternate interior and exterior angles. Line J is parallel to line K. The measure of angle 5 is 102 degrees. So if 5 is 102 degrees, the vertical angle diagonally across is also 102 degrees. I could say that 5 and 4 are alternate interior angles, so it's also 102 degrees. 1 and 4 are vertical angles, and so that is 102 degrees. To find my missing angle, we subtract 180 minus 102. When we subtract 180 minus 102, we get 78. So my missing angles are going to be 78 because they are all congruent as well. 2 and 3 are vertical angles. 3 and 6 are alternate interior angles. 6 and 7 are vertical angles. Line P is parallel to line Q. Find the measure of angle 7 if the measure of angle 2 is 75. So again, 2 is 75. Angle 2 and angle 7 are alternate exterior angles. They're on the outside edges. 1 is on the top right, 7. 1 is on the bottom left, 2. Alternate angles are congruent. They are equal. So if angle 2 is 75 degrees, then angle 7 is also 75 degrees. Now for this problem, we have an equation. So we need to identify what types of angles we have. These two angles are alternate because they're on opposite sides of our line through the middle. One's on the left, one's on the right. They are alternate interior angles. They're both on the inside section. Alternate interior angles are congruent, meaning they are equal. So we're going to write the equations, negative 8x plus 8 equals the other equation, negative 6x plus 20. When we combine like terms, negative 8x is on the left, negative 6x is on the right, so we have to do the opposite. Instead of a negative 6x, we do the opposite, we do a plus 6x. Negative 8 plus 6 is going to give me a negative 2. Bring down the plus 8 and the plus 20. Still combining like terms, 8 is on the left, 20 is on the right. They're on opposite sides, so we do the opposite operation. Instead of plus 8, we do a minus 8. 20 minus 8 is going to give me 12. And our last step is to divide. We're going to divide by negative 2. 12 divided by negative 2 is going to give me negative 6. But we are not finished. We have to take this answer and we have to plug it back into each problem to get our angle measures. So we do it for both the negative 8x plus 8. We do negative 8 times our answer, negative 6. Negative 8 times negative 6 is going to give me a positive 48. 48 plus 48 is going to give us 56 degrees. Because they are equal, we know that they should give us the same answer. And they do. Negative 6 times our answer, negative 6, gives us 36. 36 plus 20 is 56. You end up with the same answer because they are congruent. These angles, the 5x plus 6 and the 8x minus 39, are alternate exterior angles. They are on the outside edges, that's where the exterior comes from, and they are alternate because one is on the top left, the other is on the bottom right. They're on opposite edges. Alternate exterior angles are congruent, meaning when we write our equation, we write it as equals. 5x plus 6 equals 8x minus 39. When we combine like terms, 5x and 8x are on opposite sides, so we do the opposite operation. Instead of 8, we do a minus 8. 5 minus 8 is negative 3. Bring down the plus 6, bring down the minus 39. Our next step, 6 and 39 are on opposite sides, so we do the opposite operation. Instead of plus 6, we do the opposite. We do a minus 6. Negative 39 minus 6 is going to give us a negative 45. And our last step is to divide. We're going to divide by negative 3. Negative 45 divided by negative 3 is going to give us a positive 15. But we're not finished. We have to take our answer and plug it back into one of the equations. It does not matter which equation you choose, you should get the same answer. Instead of 5x plus 6, we do our answer 5 times 15 plus 6. 5 times 15 is going to give us 75. Plus 6 is going to give us 81. Both angles are 81 degrees. They're the same because they are congruent. For this problem, 15x minus 2 and 11x plus 34 are corresponding angles. If we look at our groupings, and I label them 1, 2, 3, 4, on the bottom section, both equations are in the one angle category. That's what corresponding angles represent. Corresponding angles are congruent. They are equal. Because they are congruent, we're going to set them equal to each other. 15x minus 2 equals 11x plus 34. When we go to combine like terms, 15x and 11x are on opposite sides, so we do the opposite operation. Instead of 11, we do a minus 11. 15 minus 11 is going to give us 4x. Bring down the minus 2, bring down the plus 34. Our next step, 2 and 34 are on opposite sides, so again, we do the opposite operation. Instead of a minus 2, we do a plus 2. 34 plus 2 is going to give us 36. And our last step is to divide. We're going to divide by 4. 36 divided by 4 is going to give us 9. But we are not finished. We have to take that answer and plug it back into one of our other equations. It does not matter which equation you use, both should get you the same answer. So instead of writing 15x minus 2, we're going to use our answer 15 times 9, which is 135 minus 2. 135 minus 2 is 133. Both angles are going to represent 133 degrees. They are the same because they are congruent. Looking here at these angles, this one, the negative 5x plus 32, and this one, the negative 20x plus 48, are side by side. When angles are side by side, that means they are supplementary angles. Supplementary angles equal 180 degrees. We are going to put the two angles together, the negative 5x plus 32, and we're going to put it together, meaning we're going to add the negative 20x plus 48. And it's going to equal 180 degrees because they are supplementary angles. Now when we solve the equation, we solve it with the negative 5x plus the negative 20x. Negative 5 plus negative 20x is going to give us negative 25x. We can also combine the plus 32 and the plus 48. 32 and 48 are going to give us 80. Still combining like terms, 80 and 180 are on opposite sides, so we do the opposite operation. Instead of plus 80, we do the opposite, we do a minus 80. 180 minus 80 is 100. Our last step is to divide, and we divide by negative 25. 100 divided by negative 25 is a negative 4. But we are not finished. We are going to take that answer and we plug it back into our equation, 5x plus 32. Negative 5 and we do that times 4, we use our answer, is going to give us a positive 20. 20 plus 32 is going to give us 52. We have to solve both equations. They are not congruent, they are not equal. They have two separate answers. Negative 20 times negative 4 is going to give us a positive 80. 80 plus 48 is going to give us 128. The top angle is 52 degrees, the bottom angle is 128 degrees. For this problem, these angles are alternate exterior. Because they are on the outside edges and they are on the opposite sides of our diagonal line. One is on the bottom left, the other is on the top right. Alternate angles are congruent, meaning they are equal. So we write our two equations equal. 2x plus 54 equals 4x minus 6. When we go to combine like terms, 2x and 4x are on opposite sides, so we do the opposite operation. Instead of 4x, we do a minus 4x. 2x minus 4x is a negative 2x. Bring down the plus 54, bring down the minus 6. Still combining like terms, 54 and minus 6 are on opposite sides, so we do the opposite operation. Instead of plus 54, we do the opposite, we do a minus 54. Negative 6 minus 54 is going to give us a negative 60. And our last step is to divide. We're going to divide by negative 2. Negative 60 divided by negative 2 is going to give us a positive 30. We take our answer and we plug it back into our equation. Instead of 2 times x, we're going to do 2 times 30, our answer. 2 times 30 is going to give us 60. 60 plus 54 is going to give us 114. Both angles are 114 degrees because they are equal, they are congruent. For this problem, these angles are supplementary angles, even though they are not side by side. If I was to follow my pattern that we learned back in the beginning, finding the vertical angles first, remember we said vertical angles are congruent, meaning those would both be 8x. My alternate interior angles would be equal, they would also represent 8x. And then my 8x and my 12x are side by side. You could work the opposite direction. 12x and its vertical angle, 12x. 12x and its alternate interior angle, 12x. They still represent angles that are side by side. Supplementary angles we know are equal to 180 degrees. So we're going to put them together. The 8x and the 12x are equal to 180 degrees. When we combine like terms, 8x plus 12x is going to give us 20x. And then our last step is going to be to divide. We divide by 20. 180 divided by 20 is going to give us 9. When we take our answer, we plug it back into both equations because they are not equal. They are supplementary. So they are not going to give us the same answer. When we solve 8x, 8 times 9, we get 72. And when we solve 12x, 12 times 9, we get 108.